Switch modder released from prison with life-destroying fine. This is a tough one because on the one hand, one of our other topics is going to be, hey, thank goodness for a large fine for a change, because if you don't have the fine reflect the magnitude of the criminal action, then companies will just treat fines as cost of doing business and shrug them off. But in this case, we are talking about an individual.
It's a bit different when it's an individual.
But an individual who engaged in commercial activities as part of their criminal endeavors. Let's get through this. Fellow Canadian, Gary Bowser has been granted early release from his 40-month prison sentence on grounds of good behavior and undisclosed health problems. The background here is that Bowser pled guilty to trafficking mod chips that allowed pirated games to be played on Switch consoles in late 2021 as part of his involvement in Team Executor. Bowser was not a modder himself. His role was primarily PR and marketing. While Bowser's plea deal spared him substantial jail time, he's still facing a fine of $14.5 million, of which he has only paid $175 through menial jobs at the prison library and kitchen. Should Bowser get another job upon his return to Canada, his pay will be garnished 25 to 30% to service the fine that he owes Nintendo. Bowser is 52 years old and has physical limitations due to his ill health. Assuming a typical life expectancy of 81 years, Bowser would have to earn $500,000 a year, not including living expenses, in order to pay off his debt before he dies. This really does seem like cruel and unusual punishment.
Yes. The thing you brought up with like, oh, we have another topic about a company getting slammed with a fine. Usually we don't. It is interesting that today we do happen to have one.
Yeah.
But it is actually very uncommon. And something that we very often talk about is how these companies getting slap on the wrist fines for like 5 to 10% or less of the profit that they made doing a certain venture just does nothing, because that's just a cost of doing business for them.
Yep.
The scale of this is quite egregious, though.
The fact that there's no time frame during which his wages are garnished. I mean, and look, you know what? I mean, I was about to draw parallels to child support, where I say, like, look, we're not talking about another innocent life that, you know, Gary Bowser walked out on and is refusing to support or something like that. Even with fucking child support, when they become an adult, you're no longer obligated to pay it.
Right.
How does this make any sense?
Yeah, it's so
intense. I mean, and coming back to a punishment that is proportionate to the means, right? To the capabilities of the person being punished or the entity being punished. Like, on the one hand, I'm looking at it going, yeah, okay, so garnishing wages, I guess, is better than taking 100% all the time, you know, forcing him to, put up a cup on the street and then literally take that and give it to Nintendo. Obviously, I guess it's better than that. But it is clear, it is obvious that this $14.5 million sentence is completely unattainable. And
he's also just probably screwed. Like, if we can have a probably unfortunate conversation here, cost of living right now is insane.
Well, yeah.
Like, a huge percentage of people I know, if their wages just got deleted by 25 to 30%, they're just screwed.
Yeah, they're out. They're done.
Like, out of the house, on the street, immediately screwed. So, like...
And he's stuck with that for life. And as far there's nothing in our talking points about this, but I would have to make the assumption that Nintendo would have thought of him just declaring bankruptcy and walking away from it. Hence the wage garnishing. So there's just no way out.
No.
I mean, honestly, if like
the chance that he's going to start making,
would he be better off in prison?
Very possibly, because I don't...
Like a minimum security prison.
If he doesn't have job prospects lined up that are very, very lucrative, then he's going to be on the street anyways. Like,
I've
been trying to think of like solutions.
Yeah.
What would you think if it was like it doesn't start getting garnished until he makes a minimum of some amount of money per year?
Okay, I mean,
Because he'd have to be able to earn a livable wage before the garnishing starts.
Yeah, we can play kind of point counterpoint here a little bit. Like, I'll play devil's advocate. Just to be clear, that's what I'm doing. But my defense to that, if I'm Nintendo, right, is, well, then he's just going to carefully not declare any income above that amount, and we get nothing.
Yeah, so the country can't just take another homeless person, though. Like, you're like basic.
I know.
If that rule, I know you're playing devil's advocate.
I know. But that's what they would say.
I get that. But as the country of like Canada, I would just be like, no, because it's going to cost the country a ton of money in this situation.
Sure. But if I'm Nintendo, I'm kind of going, well, that sure as heck isn't my problem. And my copyright was infringed.
Yeah. So welcome to the limitations. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think a company should be able to just like decide that someone's going to be homeless for the rest of their lives. That's crazy to me. Like, unacceptable.
And
absolutely ridiculous.
And what's really mind-blowing to me is how, I mean, I guess that's sort of part of the cruel and unusual punishment, right? Is the unusualness of it. Countless people have been involved in, whether we want to talk about, what were they called? R4 chips or whatever for the DS, like in...
It was a court, not a company. So I've heard, sorry. I see a bunch of people saying it was a court, not a company. That is like, in a lot of ways, true.
Yeah.
Because the company can ask for whatever.
Yes.
And lawyers and all this whole structure will encourage you to ask more than... It's the whole bargaining thing, right? I want to sell this thing. I'm going to ask for like
start
2 times
high,
as much as
settle
I think.
less high.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's going to be a very difficult conversation to convince them to ask for what they actually want, because nothing is structured to work that way.
Also, it's Nintendo, so what they want probably is blood.
Yeah, probably. They're like massive jerks. But the court did push it through.
Yeah.
So it is on the court, and that's just. I'm just mad at everybody. I just want to make that part clear. Like, I'm not saying the court is not to blame, blah, 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 blah. I just think this is whatever. I don't personally care. I don't know enough about that kind of stuff. The result is not okay.
Yeah. Our discussion question here is actually addresses how unusual this harsh punishment is, and kind of asks the question, does this actually reduce piracy? Or, I mean, knowing what we know about human nature, the way people gamble, right? Are people just going to keep making mod chips?
I think it's going to be way worse.
R4 cartridges and whatever else, knowing that they probably will escape any kind of punishment at all, and probably someone else is just going to get strung up to the tree while they continue to run amok.
All I've seen online about this, in a lot of the circles that I end up seeing, is just people deck thumping, like, just pirate everything from Nintendo you possibly can. That's the main communication I've seen out of this. Like, they're not succeeding in making people not mad. I'll say that much.
Now, there's some really good points that are being brought up by the Floatplane chat right now. Vinyl says, I've seen allegations that the mod chip company, not him personally, but the company, brought in an astonishing amount of revenue, up to $10 million over time. And that is fair enough. It is well within Nintendo's right to chase that lost revenue.
Yep.
But it's pretty clear that Gary Bowser doesn't have it.
Yes.
So what? Just because he was the one that you managed to nail down. So you shouldn't go... It feels like they've gone after like a low-level mob crony and, pretty much...
Drop the book on him.
Stapled him to the cross and kind of gone, ha-ha,
yeah, we
victory,
did it, guys. Ha-ha, business.
When the boss is still walking free. This is not the win that you think it is. Because if organized crime has taught us anything, it's that there's always someone low down who is going to be put in the way to take the fall.
Fed to the machine to satiate whoever or whatever else.
And I'm not saying that what Mr. Bowser did is justifiable.
No.
I'm not saying that it was legal.
Nope.
I'm just saying that compared to almost anything else that I have seen, this really does seem to fit the definition of cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
To not just penalize what someone has, but what they will ever have. When we're not talking about a situation where it could be justified. We're not talking about the livelihood and well-being of a child, that had no choice in the matter. I guess Nintendo they did have a choice in the matter, actually. They didn't have to pursue such a ridiculous punishment.
Yeah, and like the court put it through. So just like re-upping that.
Yeah.
Yes, the court put it through. Massive
But
problems
Nintendo
there.
also had the option to get the verdict and basically say,
well, we're happy to reduce this.
We're happy to reduce this, but let this be, because that's a big part of what Nintendo thinks is such a win here, is that this is a precedent now. Now they've got a precedent to point to and go, yeah, that's right, don't do it. But it could have been. They could have made an example out of Gary Bowser without actually destroying the rest of his life. And you know what? From my point of view, if this had then come up again, case number 2, and they'd gone, all right, we're litigating this again. We've got our precedent now. We're throwing the full book at them. I could even see it. At least they fired a warning shot.
I still don't think so. Because like there's no limitations on this payback.
I'm not saying it would be right. I'm saying it would be better than this. I wouldn't have even thought this is possible.
Yeah.
The fact that there's no statute of limitations whatsoever.
The fact that the cost of living, like the livable wage in, I think he's in Toronto? I don't know. I don't remember. The cost of livable wage in Canada in general, but especially in like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, these types of places, is so high. Like the cost of living in Canada versus the average income is a really, really rough calculation right now.
Yeah.
Canada is constantly falling in average GDP. Like you look at like the States versus Canada, and the States' incomes and Canada's incomes are going up at relatively similar rates, but Canada's cost of living is going up at a higher rate. So like we're getting less like whatever you call it, play with money after your cost of living constantly. Canada is getting really, really rough to be in. Now he has to do 25 to 30% more on top of that. And as far as I know, doesn't have job prospects lined up. Like, what does he do?
The other thing that's really offending me here, I think Sofa King Stupid over on Twitch is proving their username kind of inaccurate here, points out, and this is a really good point, that maybe part of what we're so mad about right now, even if we didn't think of it, is the number of white-collar crimes like this that by comparison...
Yeah, no, that's
just get a little slap on the wrist.
That was our intro point, man.
Oh, I don't know. I was just mad already.
I was talking about companies, I guess, but you're talking about...
No, I'm talking about even individual white-collar crime. I mean, why is the Wolf of Wall Street walking free?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he owe whatever for the rest of his life? To be clear, I don't know the exact details of what went down in that particular takedown. The point is that it doesn't matter, right? There's plenty of examples. Like the 2008 financial crisis. Did anyone even get jail time?
I don't think so. I don't know much about it, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that there's like one or two fall
when it
guys.
was like a huge array of people. Like it should not have just been that. Apparently one guy, as if one person did the whole thing. Sure. Okay. I don't know. I'm pissed. I hate this. It's stupid. You shouldn't be able to condemn someone. And that's basically what they did.
That's basically what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, here's a perfect example. What's her face? The one that had the college like scholarships company or something like that. College scholarships, scam, startup. Man, this is really great. Charlie. Oh, I thought it was. Oh yeah. Here we go. The startup founder who fooled J.P. Morgan into spending $175 million on her startup by just fabricating accounts. I don't actually think she's been sentenced yet, but this reminds me, I read a really funny article. Weird. It was an article that investigated how many of Forbes's 30 under 30 eventually ended up like in prison. And it was like a lot, like Sam Bankman-Fried, her, the
Martin Shkreli. I don't know if he was Forbes 30 under 30, but it seems like he probably would have been.
Might have been on the list, not sure. But then there was the one with the fake, I think, diabetes testing thing. Is that Elizabeth Holmes?
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. That was her thing, I think. Wow, she's the second most popular Elizabeth after Olsen and before Banks, according to my search history anyway. Anyway, she has appealed her unjust conviction, apparently. So, like, okay. She wants to stay out of prison.
Someone in Twitch chat said, didn't Gary Bowser commit wire fraud, install ransomware on people's devices, and a bunch of other non-Nintendo related crimes? Isn't that what he got really messed up over? At no point in time in this conversation did we ever say that he was a good person.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him.
Not even once.
Nope.
What I said, what I started out with was that in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, et cetera, I think we have a constitution too, actually, now I think about it. I can't remember what the documents are called. Doesn't matter. The point is that cruel and unusual punishment is not cool. And this really feels like it to me.
Yeah.